I don't want a piece of the cake, I want all the cake, that's mine. If they come on my manor and they started like muscling on me, I'm going to shoot them.
It's a violent life at times.
Of course.
That's the street.
Yeah.
You violate another man's wife, daughter, sister, mother, you're dead.
Yeah.
You deal with drugs, you're dead.
Yeah.
You hit another made man, you're dead. Bobby, Michael Franzese, how are you?
Bobby
nice
Cummines,
to meet you.
pleased to meet
Pleasure.
you, Michael.
And it's a privilege for me because I've heard so many great things about you, Bobby,
Thank
really.
you. Well, I'm not being funny, that goes two ways, doesn't it? It's two-way traffic, because I've heard great things about you. Don't wish to embarrass you, but as soon as people see you, they go Mafia, you know? As soon as people see me, they go the underworld. They call me a gangster, and I go, I'm not a gangster, you know? Never have been a gangster. Gangsters, these people, they're show-offs, they're loud. I don't do that, I'm polite, and I'm a businessman whose business is crime, you know?
Well, you're a racketeer. And I like to consider myself more of a racketeer than a gangster. It just sounds better.
What was it like when you was a kid and you was born, because your family, your father was mixed up in organised crime, wasn't he? Yeah. So what was it like? Did you feel you had to go that way? How was it?
My dad was kind of like the John Gotti of his day.
Yeah.
Very high profile, always under investigation, major target of law enforcement. Back in my day, when you were under investigation, they wanted you to know about it. And for a period of, 10, 12 years, I'm growing up, we've got agents around us all the time, sitting outside our house 24 hours a day. We get in a car, they follow us. I go to a ball game, they follow us. So I grew up hating the police. I hated them. I hated the government, because I always looked at them as harassing my family, right? And then they indict him on some phony case for masterminding a nationwide string of bank robberies. He supposedly ordered the bank robberies. He goes to trial, gets convicted. They give him 50 years. I was 18 years old, 19. I was devastated, because you figure 50 years, he's never coming out alive. He was 50 when he went in. So at the time, Joe Colombo was very close to our family. My dad was the underboss. And he kind of takes me under his wing, and I'm meeting a lot of my dad's friends. So I go see my dad in prison. I said, Dad, bank robbery? And Bobby, I'll never forget, he looked me in the eye, and he never lied to me. And he said, son, I'm innocent. I was framed on this case. He said, and we have to find these witnesses, get them to reverse their testimony, or I'm gonna die in here. So I don't go to school anymore, and I'm on the street now, and I'm trying to help my father. And that's how I got involved, really.
Michael, that's why I feel for you, because I know what you're talking about. We come from a poor area, and they was all straight people in my family. I worked in a shipping office doing invoices and that sort of thing. Go through a park, two coppers go in the park. They've gone out of there, they've come back with a cutthroat razor, threw it on the ground and said, we just see you, throw that out your pocket, right? Nick me. They go down to the police station, they don't get my mum and dad, they're hard-working, normal people, they're broken-hearted, their son's been arrested, what's that? He don't do that. Come up, I said to my dad, I said, they fitted me up. He went, what? I said, they framed me. I said, I didn't have it. And he went, well, policemen don't tell lies. I mean, he was that naive. He went, policemen, no, he was, mate, he was that naive. If you take a bill guilty, you get, like in your country, $1 fine, right? If you plead a not guilty, then you're going to jail, the young offenders jail, right? My mum's crying, I don't want to hurt my family, Michael. So I go guilty on it. Go back to work the next day, I'm sacked, because you can't work in a shipping office with invoices if you've got a criminal record. But there was no criminality in my mind at that time. As soon as they'd done that, then I was hearing people doing armed robberies and all that. And someone said, do you want to come on an armed robbery? Yeah, I'll have some of that. Get the sawn off, stuck up the van, nothing in it. Right, so I get a senior detention centre, labelled the youngest person in Great Britain to be with a sawn off at the age of 16 and stick up a pub. So I go there. Brutal place, Michael, by this time. And now the criminal mind's coming in, cultured. I've met other criminals in there, and they're telling me how they do it, so I'm learning off of them. Prison is the best, university of crime, it's the best place to learn stuff.
When I visited my father, and he said to me, son, if you're going to be on the street, I want you on the street the right way. and this is in the visiting room of Leavenworth. He said, if you ever had to kill anybody, could you do it? I thought about it. I was 19 years old. I said, under the right conditions, yeah, I could do it, Dad. He said to me, that's the right answer.
Yeah.
And he said, go home, somebody's going to be in touch with you. Just do what you're told. 2 weeks later, a captain picked me up, took me to see the boss, and I sat with him, and he said, Michael, I got a message from your father. You want to become a member of our life. Is that true? I said, yes. He said, here's the deal. And this is how serious it was. From now on, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, you're on call to serve this family. That means if your mother is sick and she's dying and you're at her bedside, we call you to service, you leave your mother, you come and serve us. From now on, we're number one in your life before anything and everything. When and if we feel you deserve this privilege, this honor to become a member, we'll let you know. I was 20, 21 years old. I'm in kind of like a recruit period where I had to do anything and everything I'm told to do to prove myself worthy. That lasted like 2.5 years. And again, discipline, authority, you know, drive the boss to a meeting, sit in the car 3 hours. God forbid you leave. He comes out, you go to the restroom with everything, you're not there, you're in a lot of trouble. I know, I did that once, I made that mistake. You had a meeting at 8 o'clock, you weren't there at 7:30. Can never be late in that life. You always had to, I don't care if there's an earthquake, you had to figure out how to be on time. Go there the night before, you know. So 2.5 years later, I'm called into a room with 5 other gentlemen, and that night we all took an oath and became made members of Palumbo family.
Yeah.
And so we walked into a room individually. The boss was seated like the head of a horseshoe configuration, the underboss, consigliere to his left and right. All the captains, capo regimes were alongside of them. We had about 15 in our family at that point. I walked down the aisle, stood in front of the boss. I held out my hand right near, cut my finger. Some blood dropped on the floor. I cupped my hands, took a picture of a saint, the Catholic altar card, lit it aflame. It didn't hurt, it burned quickly. It was just symbolic. And he said, tonight, Michael Franzese, you are born again into a new life, into Cosa Nostra. Violate what you know about this life, betray your brothers, and you'll die and burn in hell like the saint is burning in your hands. Do you accept? Yes, I do. And that's the oath.
Yeah, I'll tell you, Michael, it's you know, the ritual thing we never did. The thing, there's my heart, there's my hand.
Yeah.
That's the only ritual we had. There's my heart, there's my hand. In other words, I'll never betray you. I never hurt your family. You know, you don't hurt mine. And there was them rules. And you don't cause trouble in someone else's patch and ruin their business, because it caused gang warfare, right? And people got shot and people got killed. And because you had bosses of, they called it the underworld, but bosses that was running firms, you know? And as kids, we look up to them, you know, because we just, if you like, teething it. We're doing, you know, maybe cutting each other up or hitting each other with hatchets or shooting each other. But these guys, they had the big car. They was the real deal. And someone said to me, they went, would you like to be like him? You know, and this guy's name was Billy Hill at the time. I said, no. They went, you wouldn't? I went, no. I want to be better.
You violate another man's wife, daughter, sister, mother, you're dead.
Yeah.
You deal with drugs, you're dead.
Yeah.
You hit another made man, you're dead. So we're all told the same thing. So we think at that time, okay, if we understand, if we break the rules, we can pay for it with our life. So we justify it, you know? I mean, I had a guy who was close to me like my brother.
Yeah.
I love the guy. Unknowingly, he's married. I baptized his son. He's having an affair with my sister.
Bloody hell, man.
You can't survive that. You know, unfortunately, I'll tell you what happened to me. My first experience, and I had many, unfortunately. There was a guy that, it was a Jewish guy, actually, but very close to my dad, very close to me, right? And when my father went away, he was kind of like a second father to me. He made a mistake. I don't want to get into all the details. And this was the first eye-opening experience I had. And he got it beat up, I mean, really bad, devastated. I mean, they just mutilated his body. So I went to the funeral, and his sister came up to me and she said, Michael, look what these animals, and it happened within the life. Look what these animals did to my brother. It was a closed coffin. She opens the coffin, and I'll be honest with you, Bobby, I almost got sick. He was unrecognizable. That's when I got a bird's eye view of what the life was really all about. And then I'm at a rally, and Joe Colombo, who was my boss, who I loved, gets shot, I'm 12 steps away from him. He died eventually from the wounds.
Like, even in my own life, like, allegedly I've shot quite a few people and allegedly shot them. But as I said to people, what I realise now, Michael, I didn't care then. It was business. It was just part of the business. They come in one day, old Frank, because a lot of my people are Irish, and Frank come in, he said, there's Chinese geezers want to see you. He said something about triads. Now, I'd done jail with the triads and the tongue and all that. I knew they were nasty bits of work, you know. And I went, this is heavy. I said, get the guns out. I said, if they want to meet, we're going to meet these, but we meet them off the manor in a nice quiet place, because if it does go off, I don't want cameras going everywhere. So, to be honest with you, because it's known, I had a sawn off under my coat. And they're expecting, when they all say about Bobby Cummines, they're expecting a guy like a doorman.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm 5'6", more fat on a greasy chip, Michael, you know what I mean? And, but I got the gun, and we get out and meet this guy. And he's come up. It looked like something from out of A Gangster. He must have been watching American gangster movie films. He got out, he's got the dark glasses down there, you know. He said, we're going to come on here, we're going to sell heroin. He said, and we give you, I went, you what? And I said, you're not selling that crap on my house. It destroys families. And I'm passionate about that. I won't have it, you know. And he went, he's opened up his coat. He's pulled out an hatchet. And he went, we chop people up. I went, is that right? Threw back the overcoat, pulled out the sword. I went, I'll blow your... You know, I went, now behave yourself, get back to Gerrard Street or wherever you come from, Soho. I said, but you come here, I'm going to shoot you in the face. I said, you got where I'm coming from.
I'm sure there's a difference between the way we operate.
Yeah.
Look, I always say this. Mafia, Cosa Nostra, we can talk about it now, existed in America.
Yeah.
Survived and prospered for well over 100 years. I mean, you got to understand, we had tremendous control. Number one, we controlled all the unions. If you control the unions in the United States, you control the country. And we got money. So they got votes and money, and we were very organized. And you can say what you want, but we were part of the history of the United States. That's why you see so much about it. Going back, we're part of history.
It was different in this country, Mike, in as much as people controlled areas. They weren't organised in the way you're talking about organised crime, right? They weren't organised that way. They was organised amongst their own selves. We worked separately, but we respected each other. That's how the underworld, or this so-called underworld, works. We knew each other, we grew up as kids, so we knew each other on the block, so we only worked with those we knew. You had really heavy people that was running their own sort of organised crime. But if they come on my manor and they started like muscling on me, I'm going to shoot them because that's mine. I don't want a piece of the cake, I want all the cake. That's mine, right? But I ain't going to come and steal your cake, yeah? So that's how it worked then. So we were organised crime in our little areas, but if we'd all got together, which was what the Krays trying to do, but the Krays weren't the right people to do it with. The Krays, they said, run London. No, they didn't run London. They was heavy in the East End. They was no different to what we are today. Charlie Richardson, in this country, was head of what they called the torture gang. They run South London. And in fact, I'd probably say that was the nearest thing we come to proper organised crime, was the Richardsons. They were, forget the Krays, they weren't on that level. They'd like to have been on that level, but Charlie Richardson, that firm, they was earning lots of money. They was doing everything, had mines in South Africa, working with the government over there. It weren't an organisation like you're talking about.
No, it was different with us. We controlled major cities. New York was under our control, Chicago, New Orleans, Florida, Kansas City, Cleveland. We had tremendous control back then. And again, because we were very organized and very disciplined. And a lot of politicians worked with us. You know, so, you know, they were
Anyone
happy.
we'd know? Any politicians we'd know there, Michael?
No, we don't go down that route.
You would know them. Not Trump. Although I knew Trump, I met Trump. We had the same lawyer. Roy Cohen was, and I had met Donald. And I'd be honest with you, we did business through the unions because he was a builder. He was a developer and a contractor. But that's it. Doesn't mean you were a part of organized crime. You're just doing business, right? That's just the way it was.
That's right.
So legitimate people had to deal with us in that regard. It didn't mean they were part of our life, you know? So let me ask you this. You think you London guys could have learned from us or what?
I think, yes, we could have. The structure thing, I think you could have learned from us as well into, if you like, how I said it, you were too close. So when they come for you, bang, they come for the lot. Then when they come for us, we were fragmented. So once one got nicked, we all, whoa. But you were too locked in. You were too locked in. But the discipline and the rules, yes, 100%. Yeah, we could have learned a lot from that. And in our world, we had rules, things we could do, things we couldn't do, like you couldn't shoot a man in front of his wife and kids, you didn't go and shoot women and children, you couldn't shoot the coppers, you couldn't shoot the media, because it messed up everyone's business, and that's what people didn't understand about me. It was purely business. I didn't take any pleasure doing it, Michael. Mind you, I didn't mind doing it if it meant money, you know? There was things that were tolerated, and there's things that were no-go areas. And if you broke them rules, then you picked up the price for it. And if you stepped on someone's toes, you know, if they was running a business and you muscled in on that, then you'd either have to have a sit-down talk or guns was going off. There was respect in a criminal way there, where we respect each other, we know each other's background, so there was no fibs, you couldn't boost it up. You know it.
Well, you know what it is? There's consequences. You know, we understood. We had to.
The magic word.
We had to, you know, follow the rules, or you had consequences.
Yeah.
Now, it didn't always go. You know, you saw things that maybe it shouldn't have been done that way.
Yeah.
But for the most, because you're still on the street.
Yeah.
But for the most part, you stayed in line because you knew there were consequences if you didn't. When we take an oath, people think we took an oath to lie, steal, cheat, kill, murder. That's not what the oath was about. The oath of omerta means silence.
Silence.
A lot of people don't understand. In our neighborhoods, there was no crime. People respected us because we kept everything right. There was drugs in the neighborhood, we chased them out.
Same.
You know, or worse.
The worst thing you could ever do amongst our lot was to kill an innocent. In other words, someone who weren't involved in crime, you know? And I did. It was a robbery that went wrong. They choked on a gag, on their own vomit and died. Now, with all the other supposedly shootings or whatever I was supposed to have done and whacking people, right? Allegedly, I've done all these things, but it got to a stage, Michael, where it got ridiculous. I mean, someone caught a cold when I was doing North London. I was the one who gave them it. And I got blamed for a lot of things. I know what I've done, and I openly admit what I've done.
Look, we have to admit we did some bad things in that life.
Yeah.
One of the horrors of my life, and I don't know if it's the same with you make a mistake, your best friend walks you into a room, you don't walk out again. And obviously in my life, I experienced that, right? A friend of mine, he comes to me, I'm a captain, he was one of my guys. Again, I knew him my whole life. Michael, I got involved in a small drug deal with the boss's son. He said, I'm gonna be in trouble. I said, you've been in this life for 25 years, don't worry about it, we'll straighten it all out. So he was so afraid. I was leaving to go to Florida, I was in New York, I had my own plane at that time. I says to him, don't worry about it, when I get back I'll straighten it all out, not a problem. He was so much in fear, Bobby. The guy goes into a phone booth, calls his wife, says goodbye to her, and blows his brains out in the phone booth because he said, I'm not gonna let anybody walk me into a room, I'm not going out that way. So what you said about fear was certainly a major part of that life. And I can't tell you, I mean, some of the guys I knew just got killed. Normally, the way things go, a crime is committed and the police go out and investigate the crime.
That's right.
With guys like us, they investigate us trying to find the crime.
You got it.
It goes the opposite way.
You got it in one.
You know, the opposite way. So they're trying to build a case against you.
You catch me doing it on camera, you catch me doing it, I don't do nothing.
Same thing. I used to tell the agents, hey, look, you're on one side, I'm on the other.
That's right.
You catch me, you do your job, you get me, hey, fine. Just don't frame me. I was arrested probably 18 times during my time on the street, but I went to trial 5 times. Okay, 5 times I was either dismissed or acquitted.
Yeah.
Every case was a bad case. Every case was a setup.
Yeah.
They never got me for what I was doing.
Yeah.
They were making up all this stuff for what I didn't do.
And there's places like you
Absolutely.
took a fall, I took a fall for what I didn't do. You know, so when they say, oh, you know, police cases, oh, there's no smoke without fire, I always say to them, magicians make smoke, but there's no fire, you know?
I'll tell you what happened in the United States. When they came out with the racketeering law, the RICO Act,
Yeah, yeah.
it was a devastating statute.
yeah.
All my friend, myself, I had 3 RICO cases, 3.
Bloody hell. Yeah.
But what happened is that the fear of guys on the street was transferred to the government, because now you go down on one count, 20 years.
Yeah.
No parole.
Yeah.
You get 20, you're doing 17 and a half.
That's right.
So what happens, a lot of the guys, they put them in a room, they indict them on RICO, and they say, hey, you got 5 counts, you're going away for 100 years.
yeah,
And that's the kind of time they were giving guys.
Yeah.
I was facing like 300 years. So many guys became informants.
Yeah, rolled over.
Because they were afraid.
Yeah, they're rats.
They're afraid to spend the rest of their life in prison. How much time did you do, Bobby?
13 years.
13.
Yeah.
It's a good stretch. I did 8. It's enough.
Yeah.
In 1986, Fortune magazine wrote a big article, 50 most powerful and biggest mob bosses in the country. It was half the magazine, huge article. I was in jail at the time. And they featured 6 of us. I was one of the 6. And then they have a chart. And they labeled the 50 of us according to rank and wealth and power, right? I'm number 18 on the list. I'm the youngest guy on the list. I was 5 behind Gotti. He hadn't been made boss yet. Out of that list of 50, some 30-odd years later, 48 of them are dead. Number 49 is doing life, and I'm the only one alive and free. That's a very treacherous life to navigate. If you die of old age and you die free, you've really accomplished something.
Well, this is what I'm saying. I'm 72 now, Mike, right? And
So am I, by the way.
Are you really?
Yes.
Congratulations.
The same to you. When's your birthday?
23rd November. I'm a Sagittarian.
I'm older than you, Bobby.
No, right. You're cutting ears now, Michael.
I'm
You're cutting
I'm
ears.
in May of 51. You're in November of 51.
November 51.
Respect your elders now. The reason I walked away from that life, I call it a bad life, an evil life.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not calling the guys evil.
No.
I was one of them.
Yeah.
You know, I just happen to be very fortunate. But I don't know any family of any member of that life, including my own,
Yeah,
now not my
yeah,
wife and
yeah,
kids, I spared them, that hasn't been totally devastated. Walk away.
Yeah, but Mike, I think I've got to go.
Bobby, I tell you, that's why I left the life.
I've got to
Because
go.
I got to tell you, I meet this young girl. She's now my wife of 38 years. I fall very much in love with her. I want to marry her. I said, am I going to do the same thing to her? Because I had a big bullseye on my back. They wouldn't leave me alone. I said, I'm going to marry this girl. She's going to be alone for the rest of her life. I got to make a choice. And that's what caused me to start to get out of the life.
I'll tell you what, that was a blessing for you.
100%.
That was a blessing for you. Sometimes people say, do you miss the old life? And in a way, I say, yes, some parts I
miss some parts of it too.
But I say, would you have it now? No, because as I said, you know, I've got peace now, and that is priceless to me. I walked away from it, but as you said, the hardest thing, easiest thing is getting into it. Hardest thing is coming out of it. It takes a very special man.
It was hard to get away. I mean, my whole mindset was it was a struggle to leave.
Oh,
you know,
same
it
here.
took me years.
Yeah.
People ask me, you know, Michael, what do you miss about the life, if anything? And it wasn't the money and all of that, because anybody can make money. You make money anyway. But it was that brotherhood, that camaraderie with the guys.
I look at it now, and I tell you, I've got a beautiful life now, Michael. I've got something that money could never buy. I've got peace.
Yeah.
And I've got this little family, and they're beautiful little kids and all, and I went out with them, and it was not just seeing me. I know it sounds crazy, Michael, but seeing laughing and running about.
It's nothing like
and I love it. I couldn't do that in my previous life. I had to be sitting there like that. I'm wondering, is someone coming in to whack me? Is someone going to come in and try and take over? I never had peace of mind, Michael.
Yeah. How many kids you have?
I've got one daughter alive, one daughter dead. But I'm getting married, so I've got 1, 2, 3.
You get married again?
Yeah. I like wedding cake.
Congratulations.
I like wedding cake, Michael. No,
That's good.
I'm so in love. It's untrue.
When are you getting married?
When I can afford it. You know, I ain't got all the money.
I was going to say, if I'm in town, it'd be a pleasure to
I'll tell you
join
what,
you at your
Michael,
wedding.
you get an invite anyway.
Okay.
All right? You got an invite anyway. There you go.
Thank you.
And that's the hand of God and
And
the
I
hand of the
appreciate
heart,
that.
mate.
Thank you.
Yeah.
In 1975, I actually took an oath with 5 other gentlemen, became a sworn made member of the family. And just to show you how fortunate I am, the 5 guys that I took the oath with, they were all murdered later on, every one of them. None of them survived.